Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show, and welcome back to another episode. This one's a weird one, I guess. Kind of not a cry for help, but a request for assistance. How's that? As you guys, some of you guys know, my son, he's running an RPG for his friends, and it's mostly or predominantly a sci-fi fantasy game. And we use mostly Dungeons and Lasers terrain, along with some Hearst arts and some other stuff to set up a table, sometimes several layers deep of expected encounter areas for whatever he's running. He's got his own thing going on. And as you can see from the title, we're running out of places to find sci-fi terrain. We've got a really decent supply of Dungeons and Lasers, but to be honest, I think that's what we need is more. But I was talking to Brian and Nerds and HS Lefevre, and Holy Diver was there too, over on Brian from Weird World War II's live stream just about an hour ago. And I went and looked on Cults because he recommended that. And I went on Temu and AliExpress and eBay. I've been scouring eBay for a week now. And I found a few pieces of scatter terrain. That's like predominantly all there is. It's like everything is, lay a mat down, throw some scatter terrain on, do your war game. But there's nothing for actual, infiltration of buildings. Even like contemporary interior structures, office buildings or military outposts, things like that. There's really almost nothing out there to do that. There's a little bit on Cults, but it's a whole new system, and I don't have a 3D printer. I mean, I have a snap maker, but it's an FDM, and it's the first generation, and probably just going to sit in the box until I find someone who actually wants that specific model. And I don't really have the area to do it. And resin is got a whole bunch of issues that are just never going to happen while I live in this particular house. There's just no way to set it up and ventilate it, and it's a whole another thing. But I was wondering, it's been over 4 years since Archon Studio made the greatest terrain ever. They made Dungeons and Lasers, and for the last 4 years it's all been dungeons or outdoorsy stuff, no actual sci-fi stuff whatsoever. They said they're going to relegate that to Rampart, but again, it's been 4 years since Rampart 2 came out, and that was mostly just big scatter terrain meant to look like interior terrain, but not really. It's just for wargaming purposes, plenty of room to move around and shoot, but no room to kick indoors, to sneak around hallways, things like that. The stuff that you would want if you were playing like a Metal Gear or any kind of spy game or infiltration, Black Ops, anything like that, or in the way of sci-fi inside starships. Some of the Dungeons and Lasers sci-fi terrain will work for that, and it'll work really well, but you have to sort of suspend your disbelief that the exterior part is what you want it to look like, and everything you see is you're just focusing on the maze of corridors and things like that. And that can work if you really fill the table to where the edges are at the table edges to where people aren't really looking outside. There were some Traveler sets available. I forget who put them out, where it was the full starship, the 200 ton free trader, the fat trader, and the 100 ton scout ship, where it's the whole ship. It looks like the ship. You take it off, kind of like the old Millennium Falcon for the action figures, where it was the ship. You take off the lid, and all the rooms were there. Now, for larger ships, that's obviously next to impossible, but it wouldn't be hard to create, something to cover, the outsides, to make the outsides look like what they're supposed to, and the insides look like what they're supposed to look like, without it you know, just looking like a maze made out of, you know, Legos or plastic walls or what have you. So I'm asking you guys out there, if you've got an idea, a solution, you know, where I'm not looking, where I could find this kind of stuff, or if it's, you know, years away, or, you know, don't tell me VTTs. I really don't like those. Those take away everything that I got into the hobby for, which was 3D miniatures, role playing at the table together. That's what I brought my boy up to do, and you know, he and I are working on some other things so that he can still play his in-person games with a couple of his friends who are going to be moving away shortly because of graduation, college, the military, that sort of thing. But you know, when he still has, you know, he's going to have half a dozen players in-house, in person, doing the live thing. We need, you know, something else, because, you know, the Dungeons and Lasers stuff that I want, and I would buy a crap ton more of it, but it's just not available. You can't go to Archon Studios and buy but the most minimalistic amounts and sets, and even then they're priced way, you know, you're looking at over $50 for a single room. That's just not cost effective. Sure, I realize you can break it down, build it, you know, like Legos, but it's just really not cost effective at the moment. You know, and I look on eBay for people selling, but there's less of that as time goes by, because I'm certain that most people are realizing, hey, this stuff, you know, will last forever if you treat it right, and even if you throw it off a roof, it'll still survive. But it's just it's less available, and I don't know what we're going to do, because, you know, it's just, there's just nothing out there. Maybe somebody out there would like to, you know, maybe start sculpting or 3D modeling. Hold on a second. That's sort of a terrain kit, you know, where the outside walls look like outside walls instead of just inside walls turned around. You know what I'm saying, guys? Otherwise, he's gonna, you know, really have to push himself and eventually, you know, run out of the possible permutations of what we do have. But that's what I got for you guys this morning. I know it's not my usual video, but this has been bugging me for a couple of weeks, because I've been seeing this sort of build and sort of snowball for my son's continued games. And we've already, you know, not quite exhausted everything we've got. We still have a lot of the fantasy stuff, but his game is really not that kind of a game. So comment section or Discord, send me links, send me advice, whatever you got that might help. I'll be sure to look at it, and in the meantime, I will continue my own searches. But thanks for listening, guys. I will see you guys all on down the road. Until then, happy trails.